All right, so today is Module 12, and if you want to follow with me, I have the files there. So the health file or the health file, we are going to be using it. So let's download that guy. And then there is kind of a zip file. I think it is extracted already. All right, so this chapter covers some features that are nice, and some of the features you might even include or embed or incorporate in your project. And mainly it focuses on security and how you can use Access, some features in Access to prevent some people from playing with your database design. So, but some of the nice features that are not necessarily related to security are, for example, here, using the auto filter in table database or data sheet. So for example, let's look at table visit. So when you open table visit, so I'll wait until everyone is on the same page. So Kelsey, are you still downloading?
What document?
So tutorial and health. Yeah. All right. So when you open table visit, then we can filter, for example, the date of visit. So if you click on that little arrow on the top of the field, and then let's click on date filters arrow, and then it will open other options as well. So you have several options here. We will click on all dates in period. And then you will see how nicely it can allow you to organize your database or your file. So in this case, let's click on November. And then you will see that it showed only the November patient visits. And if you want to, let's say, get rid of this filter, we will just click on toggle here or on the filter icon here on the bottom. So either or. So that's one way to use filter feature. Now let's say that you want to select records using filter by form. So we will, for this case, or for this one, we will open table patient. So the patient table. And then we want to organize, we want to select those patients who are from Hartford and Windsor cities, and they have private insurance. So we are interested in this criteria and those patients that we need to select. And we don't want to select or to do that through a query. We want to do it through a table. So how are we going to do that? We will click on Advanced here under the Sort and Filter. And then where it says Filter by Form, now it gives you the options and it shows you all the fields in the city. So what was the first city? Hartford. And then we want to click on Tab until we get into the insurance type. So the insurance type that we are interested in is private. So now in order to show the results for this, we can click on Toggle Filter. And then you will see that we have two patients with this criteria. So, but that's not it. We said we need to select those patients who have private insurance from two cities, Hartford and Windsor. So far we have selected people from Hartford. What about Windsor? So we will do the same. So go to Advanced and then Filter by Form. And then in this step here is a little bit tricky. So we'll stop here and then think for a little bit, and then you will see here we have look for and or in the bottom. So we are interested in or. That way we can select both cities. So let's click on or. Now what is the next city? Windsor. And what is the insurance type? Private. So now when we toggle, then you will see that we have 4 patients that are meeting this criteria. Well, we like this, and it is in a table, but we want to save it as a query. Can we do that? Wouldn't it be nicer to save it as a query? Yeah, let's do that. We'll go back to advanced, and then filter by form again, and then again to advanced, and then where it says save as query. So did everyone got this one? It's a little bit tricky, you might get lost there. If you get lost, let me know. Okay, clear? Now let's save it and give it a nice name or meaningful name. You can just give it, let's say, query patient visit, any name that we can remember. Oh, we already have. So I'll just call it query city. All right, now we can just get rid of this by going to advanced and then clear grid, and we'll just close it. Say no, I don't want to save it. Now what if we want to get that same table to run this query that we just created? So we will open table patient again, and then we will go to advanced, and then we will say filter by form, and then we can say advanced again, and where it says load from query. So load from query, when you click it, you will see that query that we just created, which whatever name you give it a name. We called it query city, and then I'll select it, and now when I untoggle, I have I have that same restrictions or data that I was selecting. So that's one thing. Now we have learned when we dealt with queries and SQL, we did queries by design or queries by example. We did the queries, SQL queries using Access and SQL queries using Microsoft SQL Server. So now let's look at the SQL code for this query we just created. But we say that there are some queries and there is also query within a query, which we call it a subquery. So when we have a main query and a subquery within it, which one gets executed first? So the main query or the subquery? The subquery, right. So the subquery gets executed first. As we mentioned, there are several criteria also, or rules of thumbs, which gets executed first. But now let's click on this query that we just created. So query city. And then let's get into the SQL window. So this is, we are going to use this as, we will modify this query or this code as our subquery. So what we want to do, we want to select all records from visit table where the patient ID is equal to this criteria, which means we want the patient ID for the patient that we want to select in the visits table to meet this criteria. We want this patient to be from Hartford or Windsor and should have private insurance. So that's the criteria. But we want to use here one main query and a subquery. So we'll make space here at the top, and then we will type select it's not big enough. So we will say select all. So the order of lines is not important as long as the semicolon is at the end. So if you want to move from one line to other, sometimes people like that because it gives you kind of a idea or a design where you can see where is what or what. For example, select all from. So from table visit, TBL visit, where patient ID, and now this is the trick is where patient ID in, then we can drag this previous where patient ID in, and then we can open parentheses and then say select. Instead of the asterisk in the second query, we should put patient ID. Patient ID. So since we added one parenthesis here, we need to close that by adding it here at the end. So we should have 3 parentheses at the end and 1 before the select. So now if we run this, it will select all from the table visit and will select those visits from those patients who are from Hartford, Windsor, and have private insurance. So let's run it. Then you will see this is what you will get. So that's how we created a query with a subquery. Is it simple now? Now there is another feature in Access that we remember when we talked about many-to-many relationships. Remember? So when we said when we have a many-to-many relationship, what should we do? So we should create an associative entity. What if we didn't? We don't want to do that. We can go around, but it is a very bad idea to do that. So we can try to get around that, but it's going to be a very bad idea because it is bad design. It will cause redundancy and it will cause repetition and it will take more space than what we really wanted to do. So now let's say that, close this guy. So let's click on the employee table. So we have employee ID, name, position, supervisor, and degree. So if you think about employee, every employee, what is the relationship between employee and degrees? What can we say? Is it one-to-one, one-to-many, or what? Huh? So how would you read it?
For every one employer, there could be one or many degrees.
Okay.
But for
Okay. So it is many-to-many. Does that make sense now? So every employee, when he read it, he got it. So he said for every employee or every employee might have one or many degrees or even 0 or many degrees. And every degree can belong to 0 or many employees. Can we say that? Also to be safe, just the 0 there, maybe somebody just didn't go to school and they don't have a degree. So, so now, is it clear? We have a many-to-many. So we will see here, if we created that field, which is the degree, and one person had more than one degree. Let's say they had high school, or they had a certificate, and they have an associate degree, and they have a BS in science. So they have a BS. Okay, so some people make fun of that. So let's put that into design view of this table. So table employee will go to design view, and then we will add that degree field. Let's put it degree. And now, for the degree field, we are going to create a lookup. Although we haven't created a lookup table for degree, but we are going to create a lookup for it without a table. So we'll click on that, and then lookup wizard. You want me to go back? Everyone is fine? All right, so degree, and then we will go through lookup wizard. Now, instead of selecting the first option where we look up something from another table, we will create our own, or we want to type our own values. So we'll select the second option. I will type the values that I want. So I'll go next. Now, I want only one column for degree. So now I'll select the first row, and I will put certificate, and then tab, associate, second, BS, the third or the fourth will be master's, the last, doctorate. Is that fair? And if we covered everybody? Did we miss anyone? So we'll go next. Now, this is what we need to select this option here where it says allow multiple values. So we'll select this guy, allow multiple values. So we'll go finish. And then let's activate this table. Yes, save it. And then now you will see that we have a degree field. If we click on this degree field, let's say, this person, let's say, had has certificate and associate degree. Also, a BS as well. So we'll say, okay. The second person, let's say they have all of them. All right. And now if you make that field larger, you will see that we have this in the field. What would be the problem with this if we have this in our database? What do you think is the major problem that we might encounter if we have our database with this design? Okay, that's one thing. So it's going to be very big. What else?
Someone has something that's not on it. Like someone has a bachelor of arts that's not on it.
Okay. What else would be a big problem?
If somebody gets a new degree, we can be able to update it.
You should, yeah. Yeah, you will be able to update it. So what else? What would be the major problem?
Can you work to sort for a specific degree? Can you do that?
That's the major problem. Because I noticed that when we were discussing or we were evaluating the admissions for this program, the KU system had, or the admission system had the same problem. They listed, for example, the semesters like that. So we wanted to sort, for example, the courses taken per semester, but they put fall, spring, all in one. So now, can you sort, for example, by certificate? No, because the system does not read certificate, because it only reads the first words. So this is a problem. We should not do this at all. there is another way that we can maybe fix this problem a little bit by using a query. So let's save this guy, or so let's look if we can put this as a query first. So we'll save this guy, employee. So we are supposed to copy it, but let's close it. And now let's create a query here using Query Wizard. So simple query, and then we'll select all the items that are in the employee table. Because since it is selected, it's already there. And then say finish. Now this is what you will see. Do you see now we have two columns. We have one column called degree that lists all of them in one row, and we have another one here sorts them in different rows. So if you notice here for Parker, is it Sarah or Sandra Parker? Sandra Parker now, it is repeated 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Is that efficient design? Do you see? It's not efficient at all because we are wasting space now. We are repeating the name. We are repeating the position, supervisor, and degree several times. What would be the advantage of having the associate degree or the associative entity? So we will include only two, is that right? So the degree and the ID of the employee, for example. So those will be only two columns. So that will save us much time, and space much better than what we have right now. Do you see now why we have been creating those many or associative entity? Because of this problem. And imagine that you are working in a clinic and you see patients maybe hundreds per day, and your database is expanding. Would this be efficient for your database? No. So that's why we want to keep the design very efficient. So now we can fix this. Let's say that we are interested only in this, because this is what we see. It shows us actually, that way we can sort it now. Is that right, Mario? Now we can use this column because we will be able to sort them, at least. So let's go to design view and get rid of this where it says degree field. We can just click or cut it just to delete it. And then we will keep that degree.value selected and go to property sheet. And then in property sheet, we will go to caption and call it degree. So let's save this guy and activate it. And you will see that's what we have. So now it is less of a mess than the previous one that we had, than the table. But it's still very bad. We don't want that. That's why we created an associative entity. What if now, if we want, who's this guy? What if we want, let's open the employee table. What if we want to add an attachment, let's say, field, where everyone says, for example, they have a certificate, they have associate degree, they have a BS, they have a master's, but when they apply for that job, they need to submit those transcripts, because there are so many people that they claim that they have something, but they don't have. I'm sure you have heard about fake resumes. I've heard about that. A lot of people fake their resumes. And the only way to prove that is to submit their transcripts or their certificates. So for that, people will submit, and we will need to create a field for them. That way we can upload their certificates to that field. So let's call it here added document or attachment. So document. Now we will select attachment type. All right. Now, since we didn't have a space here in the field name, we can just use the caption here and put added and then space document. That way it shows more professional. So we'll save this guy and activate it. Now you will see that we have now an attachment field. Now Sandra Parker, she has provided us with her degrees in different types of files, in PDF, in Word document, and in Excel file. So now we want to upload those. So there are two ways to upload documents to an attachment, either by double-clicking on that or just right-click and click on Manage Attachment. Either way, it will give you the option. And then to upload those attachments, we will click on Add and then browse for it. So for us, we called it, it should be under Tutorial. So those are the three files that we have for Sarah. So I will just select all of them. I will highlight all of them or select all of them and then say Open. Now I have all of them here. And then say OK. Now you will see that it shows that I have 3 attachments. And if I want to remove some or modify some, I can always come back and fix it. So what would be an example if you are working in a physician's office for this attachment field?
Release the records, like if somebody has to bring their everything from somewhere else, they have to have a release of that.
Okay. What else? So that's a good example. What else? The patient form that they fill. What else?
Copy of their insurance card.
Copy of their insurance card. So it's going to be helpful, definitely. So we'll close that. Now there are some features in Access that can help you analyze the design of your database. And one of that is if you go to database tools, you will see here analyze performance. So it shows you how it gives you recommendations. And so we'll click on that analyze performance key. And then we will go to all object types. So what do we mean by objects? Who can remind us? So what do we mean by objects when we talk about objects in a database? Exactly. So is everyone clear about it? Did you all hear what she said? Can you say it again louder, please?
Forms, reports, queries, tables.
Okay. Yeah. So when we click all object types, you will see that it shows everything. Tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and so on. Okay? So those are all types of objects. So we'll select all object types, and then we will select all. So we'll click on the bottom or button where it says select all, and then we can click OK to let Access analyze those tables or those objects for us. So we'll say OK and see what we got. And now you will notice that we have different types of icons. The exclamation mark icon says it is recommendation, suggestion, idea, and fixed, and so on. And then you can, for example, click on any of those recommendations and it will fix it for you. And then if you select something that can be fixed, you can just click on optimize and then it will do the recommended advice for you. All right, so that's one way just to look at the performance of a database. What if now we want to we created our database and we worked so hard on it. Is that right? You all worked so hard on it. You spent several hours on it. And you deployed that. You give it to the end users. And some of the end users, they are nosy. They just like to play with stuff. And they play with it and all of a sudden they mess it up. And then what are you going to do? You'll not be happy, isn't it? What would you do, Derek? What would you do if somebody messed up with your database that you have been working on the whole semester? So you're not going to be happy with that person. But is there a way that you can prevent that person if even trying to, even if he or she is trying to mess up your database, can we prevent them from that? Yes, we can. So that's kind of some of the features that Access provides us for security. Remember when we talked about security, we talked about physical as well as non-physical security. So physical means the location, the storage, where you put it, and so on. So now there are some features that in Access that we can utilize to prevent people from messing up with our design of a database. So one way is called splitting your or linking your table, for example, your database to another database. That's one way. But one way to prevent people from messing up with your database is to create or to split that database. One database will be called backend database, one will be the front end. So let's do that by splitting the database. So if you click on Access, before we do that splitting, let's link this database to another database. So we have one table in referral, and we want to link it to that one table that we have here in this database. We will come back to split that way, because when we split, then we will not be able to make changes. So now let's link this database to another database, Access. So we'll go to external data and then Access. And then we will say link the data source by creating a link table. And then we will browse and we will go to that tutorial file we had, and we have here referral access. So we'll click on that and then say OK. Now we have only one table in that, so we'll select all and then click OK. Now you will notice that we have that table referral is linked from this health database to the referral database. Now let's say that we want to refresh this link. So we can just right click on this table that we just created. It has a link. And then go to say link table manager and then select all and then click OK. Now you will see that it says all selected link tables were successfully refreshed. So they are refreshed. We're good. Now let's open this table and let's add something. Let's add a record for it. For me, just for the sake of testing it, I'll just put 2 in every, just for the sake of testing it. So I'll save and close. Now if I open that tutorial folder, and that referral, you will see that that has been also there. So you will see whatever I do in this main database, it will be linked and it will be updated in the linked database. So that's one thing. Now let's say that we want to delete this referral table. We don't want it. So we can just delete it from there. Now let's go back and look at how we can split our database to a back-end database as well as to a front-end database. We'll go back to database tools and then access database where it says split database. So we'll say split database. We can just save it there, and you will notice here it has an index or an it says here BE, which stands for back end. So back end. So we'll say split. All right, database successfully split. And then say OK. And then you will notice now all of those tables are linked to that backend table. So now that end user will be dealing with this only. And let's say that end user wanted to look at your relationships and they say, well, Derek has been mean to me. Let me just delete this relationship to make him look bad. Okay? So I'll just right click on that link and then click delete. Oops. What does it say? You can delete a relationship inherited from a linked database. So in terms of security, that person will not be able to do anything in terms of the design of your relationships. So that's one thing. And then there are some other nice features that you can eliminate, or you can just manage that way, and users can't utilize these things. So one thing that we can do is to make, for example, in your case, you are required to create a switchboard, is that right? And you want your switchboard to be open as soon as anybody opens that database. Is that right? Wouldn't it be really nice to have that feature? So now we will learn how to do that. So you will program it to open whatever window you want it to open to be kind of the face of that database. So for you, you don't have to utilize or you use all of those for your database. Please don't split your database that you are going to submit. So splitting is not for the project. And don't also eliminate some of those features, because now we are going to kind of restrict users from using some of the features. For example, right-clicking in the shortcut keys, we are not going to allow them to do that. We will not allow them to view layout view and so on. But to do that, so we will go to File, and then we will go to Options, and then under Options we will select the current database. So application title, let's say it is release 1. So when you create a database and you want multiple end users to use it, you're going to split it, and and then you will give the split or the front end type of database to the end users to use, and all of those will be actually linked to your backend database. So everything that they work on will be updated in your backend database. So, and then you might give it a name. For everyone, might give it a name, release 1. And then there are some features here where it says display form. So that's what you want to select for your switchboard. So where it says display form, for you, you will definitely select the switchboard. For me here, for this example, I will select that navigation form. You remember the query navigation form? So I will select this form queries. And then there are some other features that you want to restrict that the book instructs us to do. So we will uncheck the following, starting with use access special keys. So what do we mean by special keys? Like shortcuts, when we use the F keys and we use control plus other stuff. So we will display, or we will uncheck use access special keys. Second one, we will uncheck enable layout view. So uncheck enable layout view, and then uncheck design changes for tables in datasheet view. So do you see what we mean here? So they can't make any changes in datasheet view. We will not allow them to do that. And then we will scroll down. We will say don't display navigation pane. And then we will say don't allow full menu and don't allow default shortcut menu. And then we will uncheck track name autocorrect info. So that's it from this particular tab. Now we will click on the object designers. And in this window here, we'll scroll down and we will select, we don't want them to enable error checking. So if there is an error, we don't want them to be able to fix it. So then we'll click OK. Now it asks you, you must close and reopen the current database for specified option to take effect. So we'll say, okay, close this guy, and see what it will do. So what did we say that guy? Was it this one? Yep, so did you see now? So it shows me only the main form, or the form that I asked it to do. So in your case, what would you do? What would be your first form? New project? Yeah, so switchboard, right. Because that's where you need to go to the other ones. So now let's say that I want to display this guy. Now notice that if you try to right click, it doesn't allow me because I already told it not to allow that. So that was all for today. But let's say that you wanted to open it normally. You want it to open as you opened it the first time. You don't want it to open with these features. What you can do is select it and click on Shift. So keep clicking on Shift and then double clicking on this. Now it opens as it was. All right. So that was all for today's chapter. And I assume everyone is here, is that right? Everyone except for Sal. Is that right? Anyone? Yep. Okay, so do you have any questions for me?
So tutorial 12 is due this weekend?
Yeah.
And then what?